Hey, Dave.
How are you, Mike?
Good. Sorry about that. Chris had a technical difficulty, so I had to find the password to sign on.
Well, I was actually beginning to get concerned. I'm like, wow, we're actually over. I'm like, and then I realized that at first I had signed on for the first meeting because
Oh,
Mona
okay.
had sent two invites. So then I'm like, okay, I'm backing out. And I went in and guess what? It worked.
Okay, good.
Yeah, I thought I had called into the wrong meeting, so I tried a few times as well. I was just sending you a text to say, am I in the right link or not?
You were right. You were right.
All right, well, we have a long meeting, so I think I'll get started. So welcome this evening to the Board of Selectmen, May 29th, 2025 regular meeting. We have a lot of really great things on the agenda this evening. We're going to be hearing from three committees. So I think it should be quite an interesting meeting, and then we have some planning things to do. So before we begin, I'm going to take a roll call vote. Robin Hunter, present.
Dave Haviland present.
Pam Hudson present, sort of.
Are you under the weather, Cam?
I'm really under the weather, yeah.
I'm so sorry.
It's okay.
You sound like a lot of people I work with who are under the weather as well. So.
Oh.
We promise we won't try to foist too many committees on you.
Right.
You'll see me muting on regular occasions so I don't do all the coughing right into your ears.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks for the warning.
And feel better.
Right. You don't sound good. So we will try and move this along as quickly as possible. So the good news is the first three items are listening and learning.
That's right.
So the first item here is citizens' comments. And if you would like to participate in the citizens' comment, please go to the raise your hand feature on the bottom of your screen and click on it. And we will then bring you into the meeting.
I don't think we have anybody.
No, I don't think we do either. So then why don't we move along to item 1.1, which is a presentation by the Open Space Committee.
Audio's not on there. No wonder you couldn't see or hear me. Thank you very much for having the Open Space Committee here to talk to you about open space and what we do in Dover. If I could share my screen, I can give the presentation.
Okay. So Amy, do you know Cam?
We do indeed.
Okay, good, good. Because he's our newest member. Anybody else going to be joining you from the committee?
Nope,
Okay.
I don't think so. I mean, they may be on, but
Okay. All right.
I was just going to do it. If you want to speak with anybody else on the committee,
No,
they may well be on.
Okay. I wanted to be sure to include them if they were there, but
Thank you.
if not, go ahead.
Great. Hopefully I can share now. Yes, thank you. And
there you go.
Perfect. I will try and do it with the presentation mode, and it may not, I don't know. Anyway,
it's working. You've done this before.
Well, sometimes the progression doesn't work. There we go. It does seem to work this time though. So good. So basically I'm going to spend a little bit of time just talking about the importance of open space to Dover. Then I'm going to talk about what we actually do on a day-to-day or an as-needed basis within the town, and then also talk about a couple of the active issues that we're seeing as the things that we expect to spend a bit of time on in the next year or two.
Sounds perfect.
So just to give you an overview of the uh, open space importance to Dover. It really contributes to not only our rural character, but also our health, both mental and physical. The rural character is almost always in the top 2 reasons for people to live in Dover, the schools being the other reason, but open space is and rural character are pretty well tied with the schools, which is pretty impressive given how wonderful our schools are. Almost half the town is either open space or recreation land, and 85% of that land is open to the public. That doesn't mean it's necessarily all that accessible for recreation, but 100% of it is open to the water flowing into our aquifers and our groundwater for our wells. So it's always promoting our health. And then as we saw during COVID, our open spaces are very valuable as a regional resource to Metro Boston for recreation and mental health. And as I said before, all of our conservation land is helping to contribute to our water quality and quantity. And as climate change and the droughts and big rainstorms persist, it really improves our climate resilience. Oops. Oh, now I'm getting stopped by regression. Let's see, maybe I can do it this way. There we go. So after the Hale CR is completed, which is due to be done hopefully early this summer, maybe even the end of June, 40% of Dover will be protected open space. There is open space that's not protected in terms of some of the recreational spaces and some of the schools and other things that would count as recreational open space, but not protected open space. And right now, this big yellow blob here is Hale, and that is currently not protected. So 33% of the town is protected today. And when Hale is protected, then it will be 40% of the town. We have a big corridor here, which is both private land trust land, private land under conservation restriction, our own wild woods, and the Charles River Natural Valley storage area that the Army Corps protects in here. That's what the blue is the Army Corps. And then the rest of the river is protected over here by a number of different organizations and private landowners with conservation restrictions. So we're really lucky to be in this beautiful landscape of protected lands, both within Dover, but also in our adjoining towns. So I think, Robin, you live right near Rocky Woods.
Right.
That's down here, just to get you oriented. A lot of the hatched pieces are conservation restrictions, and those are not generally publicly accessible. If you want to go on those lands, you should definitely talk to the landowners and get their specific permission. And just so you know, you can get an idea of how the conservation land goes out. This is Dover as a total is almost 10,000 acres, and about 51% of it is what could be termed developable, I think is future protection lands. A lot of that land is either wet or floodplain, so not all of it is actually buildable. It's just not protected. Conservation fee land is about 35% of the town. CRs represent another 5%. The Army Corps easements for the Charles River Natural Valley storage area are about another 1%. And then the Chapter 61 is 5% and recreation is 4%. Those are not terribly strongly protected, but they are somewhat protected. But the organizations protecting open space, the largest is the trustees. DLCT is the second, and Hale is the third. The Conservation Commission is the third, and Hale is the next. And this is assuming that the Hale CR goes through. And as I said, 85% of this land is open to the public. Oh, sorry, 85% of this land is open to the public. But like the Army Corps land, which is very, very wet, it's all protected because it's floodplains for Trout Brook and for the Charles River. It's not very accessible to people, but it is contributing to our welfare by absorbing flooding and also providing us with water into our aquifers. So moving on to the Open Space Committee itself, I view it as our primary purpose is really to be a hub for information exchange between the various different parts of the town. We have a couple of boards, the Planning Board and the Conservation Commission, that appoint members, and then 9 members are appointed by the Board of Selectmen, and we typically try and get the Board of Selectmen to appoint people who are involved in other town boards or other nonprofits that are affiliated with land and trails. We are an all-volunteer board with no administrative budget. And our one required duty is to update the open space and recreation plan, which is a state requirement, and we're hopefully completing the update this spring or this summer. We're just at the point where we're going to the various different other boards and getting their buy-in on the action plan that is the final section of the open space and recreation plan. We started this process in 2018, 2019, and got derailed by COVID, and then started it up again, and then got derailed by the Hale CR. But now we're back focused on it, and we'll be
Almost done.
almost done. Well, it was almost done in 2019, but we couldn't go to the various boards and get their buy-in on the action plan, and
Right.
then we had to redo the action plan, and anyway, because of course Hale was one of the main actions. We also do a lot of we try and conduct some outreach and education on open space to the public, which include our walks, which Robin has joined me on a few times. So as I mentioned, our monthly walks on conservation lands across Dover. If you haven't, we do them now, March through December, on the second Saturdays, and we even had one looking at erratics, which are big boulders, off trail in January last year. And we also do a booth at Dover Days to provide representation to other open space organizations that don't necessarily have booths. For example, DLCT or the Norfolk Hunt, although they've done their own booth, a spectacular booth in the last couple of years. And we can just talk to people to promote other recreational and other passive recreational opportunities, supply maps and other information about protecting their land if they're interested, or where Hale is, for example. Occasionally there's an open space related warrant, like 46 Springdale project, and we have occasionally done presentations at town meeting or at the warrant open hearing on those projects. We were working on one for Hale, but luckily didn't have to deliver that one.
Well, you did deliver it. It got delivered.
Well, we delivered on this, maybe we're delivering on the CR, but we didn't
Right.
have to deliver any special town meeting presentation. Thankfully, we do have outdoor recreation listings, so you can figure out where to go walking or where to launch a boat on our website, or how to get in touch with other. There's at least 5 or 6 other open space oriented nonprofits that operate in Dover, and so we try and provide links for finding information on those. And then we also have a few resources for landowners who are potentially looking at what they can do to conserve their properties. And we also advise town boards on open space related matters as they come up. So, for example, we provide a memo when the right of first refusal on a sale of a Chapter 61 property comes before the Board of Selectmen.
Amy, could you educate me on what a Chapter 61 property is?
So Chapter 61 is a Massachusetts real estate tax relief program that you can join if you have, depends on the chapter, but 5 or 10 acres that you want to put in either forestry, agriculture, or open space and recreation, passive recreation designation. For the real estate tax relief, you give up the right of first refusal on that land, and you have to pay a number of years of back taxes if you take it out of Chapter 61 as a penalty, so that people don't do it and then turn around and sell their land to development.
And Cam, just as background, the catalyst for 46 Springdale was the fact that that was a 61A property.
Okay.
So the
Okay.
town had the right of first refusal on that property.
Okay.
So when 61A properties come up for sale, we have the right of first refusal.
Okay. Thank
And
you.
you can, the town can also assign that to a land trust. So, for example, if something came up that was a Chapter 61 property, and Doverland Conservation Trust or the trustees was interested in raising the money to buy it, then they could go forward with the town could assign it to the land trust.
Thank you so
So
much for that clarification.
Yep.
I appreciate it.
When we write those memos, and in fact, it applies also to conservation land gifts and conservation restrictions. We look at the importance of the land to Dover's rural character. It's the magnitude of the conservation values, like wetlands or wildlife, that are available for those, and then also what are the recreational opportunities on that land. So it's a semi-standardized evaluation that we try to apply. It's not just, oh, that looks like a pretty piece of land, let's keep it. Because obviously, in all cases, it is a financial transaction for the town, whether it's actually buying the right of first refusal property for the price that the purchase and sale was agreed to, or whether it's taking land off the tax rolls when it's a land gift, or a reduction in taxes when it's a conservation restriction. And we also participate in some ad hoc committees. For example, the Tree Preservation Committee, the Water Resources Committee. We were on both the 46 Springdale committees and the Hale Partnership Task Force as well. We can manage town-owned land or easements for other boards as requested. Right now, the Conservation Commission has not requested that we do this for any of their land, although, as I'll talk about later, we are partnering with them on some of this. The Planning Board has recently requested that we take over all the easements that they have agreed with, the ones that haven't gotten through town meeting, at least so far. So you will be seeing us again hopefully next year at the town meeting for a few more trail easements that will be ratified, and we may or may not be the ultimate holder and defender of those easements. And oh, that's so as I was talking about, the trails are the number one issue that we are looking at right now, and sustaining the trail network, both the fragmentation of the maintenance and land management. There's more and more use of trails, and that's increasing some of the landowner issues. We're also getting more people who aren't as familiar with trail etiquette as they might be. So we're working on trying to figure out how to improve that. Obviously, the increased use also creates more maintenance requirements. And climate change is just intensifying that because of the tree damage and the rains and wet conditions on the trails. We also want to formalize some of the trail easements and identify key segments which don't necessarily have easements on them yet, and that would be sort of a future hope that we can get some additional trail easements on some key linkages there. A partnership with the Norfolk Hunt is probably a great way to go forward with that, and since we have people who are involved in the hunt on the committee, we will be working closely with them on that. So the initial initiative in that trail network solidification, I guess is the way to put it, is a partnership between the Open Space Committee and the Conservation Commission. Part of it, a good part of it is going to be is currently to maintain and improve the trails. They've been putting up some new trail signs and trail markers in Wild Woods. They rebuilt a bog bridge to replace a rotted one that the Scouts built at least 25 years ago in Wild Woods that was had sort of ended up at a 45-degree angle, so it wasn't very useful as a bog bridge. And they're coordinating with DLCT and the Hunt Club and the trustees to try and improve the trail networks in general. They're also curating some of the online maps so that only the public trails appear, so that we reduce some of the landowner issues when people are ending up on private trails, on private land, not realizing that they're on private land and upsetting the neighbors. They're also doing a management plan for Concom properties. The first one is
You're here. So
Springdale Meadows, which is what we've renamed 46 Springdale Rear Land. And they've had 2 trail days so far, so keep an eye on them. They're moving fast. There's 4 of them, 2 members from Open Space and 2 members from the Conservation Commission. And upcoming activities, Dover Rail Trail. We believe we'll be working with Park and Rec, or we hope to be working closely with Park and Rec to help them move forward with that project. We plan to work with the Sustainability Committee as requested. The planning board, as I said, has already asked us to work on being the lead on accepting the acceptance of rights of ways and trails that they've gathered in past subdivisions. So we'll be working on that a lot in the next year. The Tree Preservation Committee is also a committee that we've been working closely with. And the Army Corps is also updating their master plan for the Charles River Natural Valley Storage Area. So I went to a presentation that they and a working session that they had out in Medway, and submitted some comments about the importance of the Trout Brook corridor for wildlife and for the health of the river. Merging is a new initiative that didn't make this slide because it's just been starting to bubble up, which is the Native Fish Coalition has identified a real dearth of trout in Trout Brook. So they have started an initiative to restore Trout Brook. So that may be something that we get involved in, helping to facilitate in the future. They claim they're forming a 501c3 in Dover for Trout Brook. So they just presented to the Conservation Commission, and they have, and also showed up at one of our meetings. So that was great. So thank you very much for your time. Hopefully I haven't set you too far behind. I think I am a bit over, and I apologize. Do you have any questions?
No, so I would just like to thank you and the committee. I don't think people really understand or recognize how much work your committee actually does to maintain the trails. And over the years, I've noticed a huge improvement in the trail management. And I personally have made it a point to get out on some of the Dover trails and try not to get lost and not to land up on homeowners' properties. But I have noticed, the markings are much better. And so I do really personally appreciate all the work that the committee does. And you especially, Amy, you really are a great asset to us.
Well, thank you.
So thank you.
I fully agree with that, Amy. You guys do a great job, and I really appreciate the efforts that you go to.
Well, I just want
Amy,
to
I've
make
got a
sure
quick-
that,
Go
you know,
ahead, sorry.
I appreciate that. And I was a little surprised at the percentage of Dover that's open space. So that's why I included that, and I hope it I hope it pleases you.
It certainly does. I'd like to see it increase.
Well,
So
we're
I'm
well
sorry,
on our
Dave.
way. Amy, question for you. Is the Army Corps proposing any significant changes to that corridor or?
No, they aren't. No, they're not. They're looking at all of their land to see if there are any recreational opportunities that they can promote on the land. And I don't think this is one of
Yeah, it's
them.
very wet back there.
Yeah, I think a lot of the guys that I talked to were people who came from, you know, the Midwest or Texas, and were building, you know, dams and berms and flood prevention infrastructure. And I was like, well, that's not really what this is. This is kind of the anti-infrastructure infrastructure.
That's why I was asking. Believe it or not, my aunt and uncle gave that property to the Army Corps. So they put a local restriction on it, a state level, and then my aunt was so concerned that it would somehow get wrenched out of conservation that they gave the property to the Army Corps with the idea that it would be forever preserved just as it is.
Yeah.
So if the Army Corps is now looking at changing that, if you would please let me know, I would be grateful.
I will. At the moment, they were really because the Charles River Natural Valley storage area is I think 17 towns or something like that. It runs sort of the gamut of the headwaters to Newton, maybe.
Well, they certainly didn't give all
It's
that.
the
I'm just
whole
talking
upper
about the
Charles
builder.
and maybe even the upper mid Charles. So it's pretty extensive, the area that but the maps that they have, I mean, they haven't done this since 1984. So that'll tell you they have no idea what they have, basically. And it would be great if they did a little more beaver management. Because I think you all and Park and Rec are dealing with a lot of that at Channing Pond. So
And trustees are dealing with it in Rocky Woods.
the trustees are dealing with it at a lot of their properties. Yeah, Rocky Woods and Rocky Narrows, both. And
I
we
know
did
where
have
the,
one at Peters, but it left. Thank you.
I know where the term busy as a beaver comes in.
Yes,
Yes.
they are very busy. So.
Right.
Well, then I will just be the last to say thank you very much, one, for your presentation, but much more importantly for all your and your committee's work.
Thank you.
I mean, just half the town, that's pretty impressive.
Right.
And you
Well,
know,
we can't take credit for it. We can just count it.
that's okay. You take a little credit. So
Okay.
Well, thank you very much, Amy.
Thank you. If you have any other questions, of course, you know where to find me.
We certainly do and will. And
And if
maybe I'll see you at your next walk.
we're doing one on Saturday, if it doesn't rain at
Okay.
Powasset to highlight Amelia Peabody.
Yeah, I saw that.
And then there's a tree walk, arbor walk, and in Wild Woods on the 14th.
Okay.
So.
I may do that one. I don't know Wild Woods that well. I've gotten very lost in there, but
Well, there's new signs now. They just finished
okay, I'll
putting
give
them
it a
up
shot
at the
again.
last trail day, which
you're on, Robin.
Right. And I landed up in somebody's backyard and profusely apologized, and it was a mess. So,
it's all right.
all right. Thank you. So we will move then to our next guest. And Amy, you're more than welcome to stay. The Sustainability Committee is going to make a presentation on their activities and events.
Oh,
I
I will
believe
stay.
Anna's going to provide the update.
Thank you. I'll just go off camera so
And
I
I
don't
see there's some
distract.
other members of the committee. Hey, Anna.
Hi, nice to see you.
to
Patricia's
see
here
you.
as well, but I actually invited everyone in case they wanted to jump in or listen in. Thank you for having us. So we are 6 months in and mostly wanted to like report back and talk about the things we're focusing on and some of our ideas for initiatives.
Okay.
I sent around some documents of we want to update and like make our mission statement, make a mission statement and make our goals a little more specific. We've got like a long-term planning project we're working on for climate action plan and a more short-term tie-in with the energy coaches. So I was thinking to just run through it all, but if you all want to ask me questions, we could do that instead.
No, that sounds great because it would be for the benefit of the public, and this is what this meeting's for. And thank you for putting together all the information. I mean, you guys have certainly been busy. I know some of you would like to be busier. I love the idea of the coach. I thought that was just a great concept. So go ahead. I don't want to steal your thunder.
Fantastic. Okay, I will share my screen and go
Okay.
through documents. I am so used to doing documents instead of slideshows that I should have thought of as slides. Okay, you should have my Chrome window with, we want to add a mission statement.
Right.
Yep.
Okay, so when we did the charge last year, finishing up around November, the goal there was to sort of define the work and figure out what we meant by sustainability, thinking the committee would have more ideas. And good news, we have more ideas.
Excellent.
We realized both as a group now, the folks we have and the folks that we expect, like we want this committee to take forward into the future, we saw that we needed to both explain ourselves to the town a little bit better, that we're trying to make a difference like immediately, and we're also trying to make a difference looking toward the future, and then focus on some specific areas that kind of fall in the gaps between other town boards. So we're thinking of that around energy efficiency, water, which is always a perennial topic, and then biodiversity and infrastructure, sort of how that all connects. No one's terribly in charge of biodiversity. Conservation has some oversight in jurisdictional areas, but with climate change, with the world changing and all of the pressures, biodiversity is a really important thing to preserve. So we wanted to include that. We wanted to, I don't know, take a crack at improving water, improve both the issue around like what should Dover be doing? How do we make water usage more sustainable? That's less of an infrastructure project in should we connect to MWRA? What's the latest issue? And more like how do we make water as an issue a sustainable resource around here? What can we do? We're thinking of these as these main pillars. So this gets sort of toward the end of the mission statement. So we wanted to include that. And then we also had various goals that we made a lot more succinct. I can read those out, but I'm also just happy to provide the document to folks who asked. The goals we want to change are mainly just to improve the style and writing, add our new, more specific focuses around water, energy, biodiversity, and talk about also how we hope to work both with our town and with all the other towns that have like done more of this ahead. Like we were last to the party and we are really excited to use everyone else's discoveries to get us going faster.
Right.
So we added that we want to partner with other towns where we can. And we also see that in being charged with preserving and maintaining resources into the future, we have a obligation to respect both those folks who aren't at the table now because they don't exist, and vulnerable members of society, of our community now, who don't necessarily have the startup capital to go entirely electric. What are they supposed to do? We want to include an equity element, so that's added into our goals. So that's sort of how we've been thinking of ourselves over the last 6 months, as we've both been identifying projects and then recently talking through what's our mission as a committee. And I guess our main question is like, does this sound right? Is this like what you all want? We're here to advise.
Yes, and I think what would be really, the goal here
Mhm.
was as the committee gets their feet wet and you see what other committees have done, we will begin to change our mission and leverage some of the work that other committees have done.
Yeah.
So everything you have mentioned here and the changes you've made certainly resonate with me. My question is, what are the short-term and long-term goals of the committee? Like, do you have that? And then how as a town can we help you execute and make sure that we're not having committees trip over one another trying to do the same thing, but rather work together.
Right. I should have emphasized more clearly, we also want to put ourselves in a more coordinating role where we're talking to other committees and making sure they're talking to each other. That's partly the structure. We don't plan to change that, but we do want to call it out. In terms of short-term and long-term goals, I will switch tabs. Did it switch tabs?
So
Climate action plan?
So Anna, like one of the things I just thought of now, the
Yeah.
capital budget committee is going to be looking for some new members. So,
Mhm.
I know when we first were brainstorming about this
Yeah.
committee, we said, well, since capital budget is basically responsible for replacing capital, they play a key role in also somewhat promoting energy efficient solutions.
Yeah.
And they've certainly been really proactive with the Green Communities program. So the question now, I'm thinking out loud, perhaps it makes sense not only for a member of capital budgets to be on your board, but for somebody from your committee to also sit on capital budgets.
That's a really good idea. I'll ask everyone. I think we should. Like, one that fulfills our coordination goals,
Right.
but also I don't know, we spend a lot of time talking about these issues, and hopefully we can get some distilled thoughts to someone to chip into a capital budget discussion rather than focusing on needing to derive why stormwater management is important in a sustainable future.
Right, because
Yeah.
I really do think having a seat at the table, you may have
Yeah.
ideas that some of us aren't aware of. Although Cam seems to be on top of things. But
Yeah.
Cam, what do you think?
Yeah, I think they're going in the right direction here, Robin. I would hesitate to contradict Patricia, so
Okay, all right. So you're biased.
yes, I have to note that potential bias, but I think it's a really great concept, and I'd like to see it moving forward and becoming much more tangible.
Okay.
I think adding a seat for capital budget is a great idea, Robin. One of the things that the committee's been talking about is not stepping on anyone's toes and having that free flow of information. And the best way to do that is be sitting in the meetings. And that way, if the representative from capital budget to sustainability is unable to make the meeting, a meeting or multiple meetings, the information is still going to flow.
Yeah.
Right. And I think we used to have that water committee, and the water is 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 really there are two issues to it. One is just make it, we put that bylaw in place, but I think there's more that we can do. So I think it does make sense for this committee, and we could chat a little bit, Anna, or you could come
Great.
back to us with ideas. But I think it does make sense for the sustainable committee to take the lead in that. What are some of the conservation members? What are some of the conservation think, I'm lost my train of thought. What
You're
are
good.
some conservation issues we can tackle as a town? Also, should we now, like, we always knew the bylaw we had was just a start. Other towns have very impressive bylaws, so maybe we should think about when would the right time be for us to expand on that.
Yeah. Patricia has an idea, and then I'll keep
Right, that I see.
going on our goals.
I was gonna let Cam acknowledge her,
Ah,
but
I just wanted to quickly affirm some of the things that Anna mentioned. I mean, I think a lot of us on who are new to town government on the committee, we're kind of building the plane as we're flying it. But this notion of making sure that we are coordinating with other relevant committees, I think has really come front and center. And so Anna and I and some of the other committee members are now sort of systematically going to be getting on the agendas of the planning board, the planning committee, the capital budget committee, so that we can do exactly what you described, Rob, and make sure that we're not overlapping and share with them, areas where we think the committee can sort of have some early wins. In areas that other committees haven't necessarily taken forward. But the other thing, the other opportunity that I think we want to really move on quickly is not only leveraging some of the successes that neighboring towns have had, but also work closely with the state agencies, and particularly on the waterfront. I know some of the folks in town had reached out to, the drought management task force at the state level, but no one really knew who owned that relationship. So those are kind of the gaps we're trying to fill in, so that we can provide that connective tissue between Dover and the state agencies.
so, again, I'm just thinking out loud. Maybe if you could help put together a list of those committees, and we could set up a meeting, just sort of a kickoff meeting with all the committees that are relevant, and talk about what you're trying to do, how it overlaps with much of what they're trying to do, and try and put together a communication plan and action plan. Patricia's point is well taken. Mike has called the Commonwealth numerous times to get emails of Dover people on that drought task force meeting list. And, it just doesn't happen. So let's figure out how we can make some of this stuff happen, because it is important. Their next meeting is June 9th.
I was wondering, Robin, if we might ask Josh Tusky to shake a few branches to make that happen.
Excellent idea. We could certainly do that. Right.
believe it or not, I've already done it. I went to both Josh and Becca Roush to try and elicit their help to get Justine and Mike onto that email list. Mike, I don't know if you've gotten anything from them. That would be the only positive affirmation.
No, nothing yet.
So maybe it didn't work. I don't know. Maybe this is a highly secretive list that no one can get on.
No, it isn't.
So I actually reached out to the chair of that committee and her deputy, citing the announcement that the next meeting was going to be June 9th, and introduced myself and took the liberty of including Anna.
Appreciate
and
it.
asked her outright if we could attend the June 9th meeting. So I hope that's appropriate. I was assuming
Yes.
No,
someone
that was
from the
great. That was great.
Sustainability Committee would attend that meeting, but it was actually Justine who recommended that I should reach out to them directly. This is the second time I've done so. I reached out in March and didn't hear anything, but we'll keep at it.
That's very interesting. All our collective efforts and we get zero response.
Who knows?
Maybe we
We'll
need,
figure it out. Go
right.
ahead. Yeah, I like this idea. We had a similar idea come up in a recent meeting of maybe we should have a kickoff of sorts where we introduce
Right.
ourselves to everybody. Sounds good. Let's ask when we ask on agendas, let's ask about if that sounds good to folks.
Right. So what I would suggest is make a list of short-term goals and let's coordinate, and we can make it part of our goals and objectives as well on the Board of Selectmen. And
Great.
I would suggest that we try and get a meeting in September. You'll find a lot of people just aren't available over the summer. But if we could do a kickoff meeting in early September before the so-called budget season starts,
Mm.
I think
Yep.
I think that that would be a good thing to do.
For me, it sounds good.
All right.
Quickly on the subject of goals, the long-term goals we're looking at is doing a climate action plan, which most towns have. It's a prerequisite for a lot of funding. The grant environment, who knows what's going on there, whether MBTA communities affects that. I'm not going to speculate. We're charging on ahead and seeing how would we go about doing a grant for this, realizing it'll make us do all the thinking of developing this kind of program of a climate action plan, which gets toward what are Dover's climate vulnerabilities, what can we do to mitigate them? And then our short-term goals, we're concentrating on energy coaches. But does everyone know about the climate action plan? Should I talk about that? The
Yeah, why don't you
MVP
give us,
program?
we have a lot going on tonight, but if you could
Okay.
give us a quick summary, that would be great.
Great. Climate action plans are very town specific. They're very much, the idea is you get the town, you get the community into various listening sessions and figure out what Dover as a town thinks Dover's risks are and what does Dover need to do to be safer, more sustainable, better equipped for climate change future. Are there infrastructure projects? Are there education projects? Like, what do people care about? What is specific to us? What's going to be specific to us is totally different from like Dennis, but it might be similar to Sherburne. So there are some that we can be inspired by other towns, but it's very unique. So we want to work on developing one of those. There's a grant program funded by the state opening up in the fall that would get us funding for that. So we're working on that. There was some effort put together in 2019 to start one of these listening sessions, but I think COVID derailed the whole thing, as
Right.
we've heard from other projects. And it's a great time to pick it up now because we're new and it gives us a chance to like set a multi-year strategy. That's that concept. It feels very natural to the committee, but if folks are against it, we can do other things.
I think it's an excellent idea. It's going to provide all of us with a roadmap of
That's the
what
thing.
we need to work on, just like the open space plan and I think that's definitely the way to go and prioritize what's important for Dover.
Fantastic. And then the last thing we want to kick off is an energy coaches program that other towns have. We want to do it all volunteer. I know there's been some concern about, oh, we can't do town staffing. We don't want to do town staffing. We want to find volunteers in town who know about mass save issues, who know about ways to make one's home, one's residence more sustainable, and kind of be a glue committee in that way to get residents to advice that makes sense from a neighbor to kind of help people navigate the incredibly complicated system of upgrading stuff. What do you upgrade? How do you prioritize, et cetera? This has been a project Patricia's worked a lot on, and I'd love for us to figure out if it's something we can just start kicking off. But I know you all might have opinions, so we haven't started anything yet, but we would love to.
As a homeowner, I think this is a great idea because as people do different projects, like for instance, we replaced everything with heat pumps. We have a lot of information. Maybe I could get my husband to pull something together and but sort of have a library, have a list of contact people that you can go to. I know Cam did a lot with solar panels. He knows a lot about that. So I think this is a great idea because it's very complicated to navigate this landscape.
Hard
And
for me.
right, and I really think if you can leverage work that your neighbors have already done, you're more likely to continue to move in that direction, which is our ultimate goal, to move
Yeah,
people away from the grid
exactly.
and not to throw their hands up in frustration. So I think this is a great program. I don't know if you guys have reached out to Metfield at all, but Catherine White, who used to live in Dover, um,
I have.
yeah, so they've done a lot of really kind of fun things, like their repair cafe. Yeah, so I think you know I love this idea. So I think let us know how we can help, and then we should Chris can help us find ways to let the public know that this is available. It's an available resource.
Right. We
Um,
kind of want to do a booth at Dover Days, so we will be in touch about
Definitely.
that.
I was gonna say that's definitely a
Yeah.
start. You know, I'm also I've also been wondering to myself, like, once the community center opens, is that a vehicle? You know, if we
Mm,
really get the community to be at the community center, is that also a way to get information out to the community at large? Because the theory there is you're going to get all of Dover at the community center. So,
we hope.
yeah.
Yeah, agreed. Patricia? Yeah.
can I just quickly jump in?
Yeah.
So, so we've sort of soft launched this
Okay.
without calling it energy coaches, but some of you are aware that you know what we did in the Hudson household was featured in Stroll magazine for
Right.
Earth Day, and at the end of it, what started out as an email to the publisher actually turned out to be the article, unbeknownst to me. But in any case, the last bit was, you know, Cam's investigated a lot of the technologies, providers, etc. Would be happy to share his knowledge. Please reach out. Here's his email address. And I think we were happily surprised at the number of people who did actually reach out.
That's
So
great.
I think the interest is there. And again, I think the fact that you know, we're not trying to sell anything. It's just this was
Right.
our experience here. You know, here are the interesting things we learned. We're happy to share that with you. As you probably know, a lot of our surrounding communities have already launched their energy coaches program. Sherburne did it. Wellesley has one. I'm not sure if Medfield calls them energy coaches, but it's a similar sort of, you know, citizens education program. One of the things that the folks in Wellesley flagged was just making sure that town council was, you know, was aware and felt comfortable with this because I guess in Wellesley, their town council raised potential issues with you know, liability issues if you know, any one of these energy coaches was recommending something that, you know, led to problems. So I don't know what the process for that is, but it's, if we do want to go ahead and announce this at Dover Days or somewhere else, we should probably just have a quick conversation with
Right. So
town
we
council.
have our council comes once a month, Mike, to the
Yes.
townhouse. And so you could schedule a time with
Oh,
her.
that would be great.
She was just there today, right? Oh,
Right.
yes. Right.
Figures.
Oh,
Right.
One other
That's
thing
okay.
that
You
we've
know,
talked about at the committee is just to get the written material written
right.
so that you know, mass save. This is their telephone number. This is their website. Just raw information that literally we can hand to people, and then they can make their own due diligence. But
Right.
that to me would be a great start, because we've also talked with the Council on Aging and their ability. They send out 4 newsletters to every residence in town. annually. So they have just simply requested that written material, and they're happy to put it in their next mailing. So I think on a short-term goal, that might be a really good one, is to start putting pen to paper and
It's underway.
aggregating all this info.
We have overachievers here, so I agree, I agree we should run it by council. So feel free to reach out to Mike and he can help coordinate.
Great,
Absolutely.
thanks.
If I may add something on the communications front, we do have internal resource available for communications, rolling out stuff. We do a lot of kind of one-off stuff for various boards and committees, but I'm totally available to help you construct a more strategic and coordinated rollout if you for really any program that you come up with, utilizing the town channel. So just wanted to add that resource to you guys.
Great. I think that's everything we wanted to talk about. Thank you for the time. Thank you for the support. Thanks for kicking us off. We're really excited.
We're excited too. So thank you. I love the energy, no pun intended.
Trying to do it sustainably.
It's a bad joke. All right. Thanks a lot. So the next item is the planning board, and I believe Carol and Jody are here to make a presentation on the MBTA Communities Act.
Good evening. There we go. Hi there, Jody, you on? Let's see. Yep.
Jody is on.
Here,
She's just
and I'm not sure why my camera's not working, but we'll see. It should come in a minute.
yeah. I find you have to shut it off and shut it back on.
I know, it's crazy.
It's the same thing happens to me, but we know you're there. We can.
Well, I'm here.
Okay. So I think this will be a little bit shorter. We're not doing a planning board presentation. We're just doing a quick MBTA Communities Act update. And I know that all of you have attended at least once, if not twice, the info sessions. So I think you're probably all up to speed with all that. And we did send out to you a memo that just sort of summarized at the top levels the major plans that we have. And Jody can pull up the detailed action plan. This just gives you a sense. Thank you to Jody for doing. Jody, why don't you quickly go through that?
It's a busy summer.
Yeah.
It's been a busy 2 years.
Sorry about the camera. You all have access to this document, and basically, we just are using this internally to make sure we don't forget things and to try to put some order to our roadmap, and it will continue to change. And as you can see on the far right, we kind of note things as complete or in progress as they're happening, so we can keep an eye on things. And we've got it just organized roughly by month in terms of how we think this will roll out. So feel free to take a look at that. And if you have suggestions for things we're missing, we're all ears. We met with Chris today, and we got talking a little bit about promotions to get people to come to the special town meeting, and that really wasn't something I had built into this project plan, but obviously now we will. So lots of sort of ongoing evolution of this plan, but at least it's a document, so we can work with this.
Right. So I guess there's a lot of sort of critical things happening right now. So the bylaws gone into Massachusetts, right?
Yes, we submitted on May 15th to EOHLC, which is the Housing and Livable Communities Department in state government, and they are currently reviewing it. They're reviewing the language of the bylaw, which, by the way, we worked hard with Nina to pull together, and also our consultant, Jeff Davis from Horsley Witten. So that bylaw went in on May 15th, along with the proposed location, which is County Court, based upon the feedback we received from our various public information sessions. So County Court has gone in, and I would say that our biggest risk factor at the moment is the approval of County Court. The bylaw language itself is likely to receive some comment back. We tried to be a little bit more aggressive on the language front than we could have been, but we wanted to stick to this mantra of as compliant as we need to be and as protective as we can be, recognizing that, worst case, they say you can't include this and we strike it. So the bylaw doesn't concern me. The location is just the factor, whether or not EOHLC will approve that location, and hoping that if they're not going to approve it, we're going to hear that really soon. Our consultant, Jeff Davis, has some contacts inside the office, and we're getting the feedback that it should be okay, but we won't know until we know. And as I said, the worst case scenario is that we're going to have to go back to our citizens and propose a location that wasn't their first choice. We've got two locations, the Meadows and County Court, which are both 40Bs, and so that's what we're hoping that County Court will pass muster. Otherwise, if it doesn't, it's likely that Meadows wouldn't either, which was our second choice from our citizens, and our third choice was Junction Street over by the middle school, high school complex.
And do we expect to hear back from them like within 30 days? Do we expect to hear by the middle of June, or?
We hope so, but we really don't know. It's a 90-day pre-approval window, which is thus the urgency to get it in. And we think it will be a little sooner. The 90 days, we're the last wave of towns coming through, and the compliance deadline is December 31st, and it's the small adjacent towns. So we feel like we're kind of ahead of a wave, but we've been told that it's usually quite a lot less than 90 days, but at the moment we don't have a time in mind, but we're hopeful that it will be sometime in June or early July.
And our consultant is working with his contacts there to try to speed things as long as best as he can as well. So,
right, because I guess if County Court is an issue, there's a lot of work that we need to do, correct?
Yes, it's the work is outward facing. It's not so hard from an internal work. It's really communications with residents because we had 4 or 5 public information sessions in every one of them, the preferred location was County Court, almost by a long shot. So that was.
I mean, there's nothing we can do. We're at the mercy of the Commonwealth.
Yep.
Our consultant feels he's quite confident, I would say, without being overly confident, that the Commonwealth recognizes that there are a lot of challenges for small adjacent towns, in particular the infrastructure considerations, and they're not looking to make this even harder than it already is for us. But again, you don't know till you finally know.
Right. As they say, you don't know. It's not appropriate what I was going to say, the sayings.
Yeah, it's tricky. We debated this a lot, and including with Nina, the strategy of going in with County Court, because it was clear to us what the citizens were telling us, and we all want to get to yes. But there was some discussion of whether or not we could submit 2 locations and have them look at both concurrently. And we decided ultimately that if we went in with both, that would maybe possibly make the outcome a little bit more challenging, because they would see that there were alternatives. So we're.
Right. No, I think the strategy's sound, and if we have to go back to the drawing board, we'll just have to figure out how to get it done and get to yes.
Yeah.
I mean, the planning board did what they represented they were going to do. We took the surveys, County Court overwhelmingly came up as the first choice, and that's what was submitted.
Yep.
Exactly. So
in terms of the forward through the months, we'll wait to hear back from EOHLC. We're going to be working hard on the other elements of this all the compliance stuff, just the nitty gritty related to Form 7 for the article itself and the notifications and all the legal requirements of getting to special town meeting, which are many, and working with Nina's office to make sure that we're really following the letter of the law there, particularly in light of the fact that we don't have a town planner. So we're working to make sure we're all buttoned up on that. We're looking forward to a all town boards and committees meeting on August 18th so that we can provide information that all those different boards and committees need to hopefully have them all vote to support the warrant article in time for inclusion in an executive summary that we'll be drafting by mid to late August that we'll use in lieu of a blue book and plan to send to every household in Dover shortly, right after our public hearing, which we are currently scheduling for September 8th. So there's just a lot of, like, as you all know, time considerations, legal time considerations that we have to take into account. So September 8th is the date of our proposed public hearing.
No, I think that makes sense. And the most important thing is getting the information out there and
Yep.
emphasizing how important it is that people come to town meeting and vote on this.
Yes, exactly. And that's a big challenge. We talked to Chris a lot about that today. Chris is on here, is he? And, thinking about a plan and language and sort of marketing language that we want to use, sort of what's at risk for Dover and using that to try to be the lever that gets people to come, because it's not a issue that's top of mind for so many people.
Right.
So we would ask the board, and I could send a draft to Mike if it's okay with you guys, to send out an email to all the boards and committees in town, asking them to not to schedule meetings on September 8th or September 9th. So that we can.
Or September 29th, you mean, I think.
I'm sorry, September 29th for both the open hearing and then the public hearing and then the special town meeting. Because this is really going to be a challenge to get folks out to town meeting and fully educated at the public hearing.
Right. I think we should also try and reach out to some of the sports groups and see if maybe they could also not schedule practices or games.
Yep.
That's a great idea. I'll talk to Mark Galoni. That's a great idea.
Right.
Thank you. And then, as everybody knows, we do have a special town meeting, a second one, tentative hold date of November 3rd, in the event that we need it. If for some reason we can't get to a yes at September 29th, we're going to come back at it for November 3rd at the high school as well. So if you could hold that date on your calendars as well.
If I could quickly go back, Carol, if you're going to reach out to the sports teams via Mark, you've got to do that a lot sooner than later, because those schedules for those sports leagues are done by the end of summer for the fall.
Oh, yeah, no, and I'd like the email to go out from the selectmen to the boards and committees now, because as the new, with the town election over now, the June meetings tend to be the ones where you schedule stuff for the rest of the year.
Right.
Right. I just
Absolutely point. Yep, absolutely. Yep.
And I'd reach out to Dover Sherburne Soccer Club because the fall is the bigger soccer season.
Yep. Okay. If you have a contact for well, Mark may know it, I'm sure. Okay.
Right.
Yep. So that's the plan. We'll be asking the Robin to take some of your financial presentations that you made and include in the executive summary that we'll be drafting over the summer, the financial statement with the financial data and grant data and so forth in it. And the warrant committee will be asked, as they do in a blue book, to make a statement. And then, of course, we're hoping that after we present everything to the boards and committees in August, that they too will be able to take a vote to support it. So we include that kind of overall support in the executive summary that's going out to the households.
Right. And I mean, one of the things that was certainly something that resonated with me in those information sessions is the misunderstanding of towns that are in non-compliance or non-compliant versus towns that are actually in the process of litigation with the Commonwealth. So there's a big disconnect between those two things.
Yeah,
Well,
you know, after that, after that info session and the gentleman that raised some of those stats, we had our consultant go and you really do have to slice and dice it
Exactly.
into the various steps of the process,
Categories, right.
of which there are many. So it's not just there are supposed to be 177 and only 109 are compliant. There
Right.
could be another 50 or 60 that are in process. So
Right.
we'll have that kind of data for the end of August that we will be able to include.
Right. It's not black and white.
No,
That's right.
right. Yeah.
no, but it's being used as a black and white club against the project by some, and countering incorrect facts is going to be paramount.
Right.
It's the misinformation that's going to hurt us more than the proper information.
Right.
Right.
Seems to be the way. Yep.
Which is why those information sessions were so good, because you really you understand the concerns of citizens and also the misinformation that is out there.
Right. You know, and we need to make sure at town meeting that we get residents at town meeting who may not be specifically impacted in the overlay district and look at it on an overall Dover financial standpoint.
Right. Right. It's important to get a cross section of the town at this meeting. This is an important issue to the town. So
Yeah. And Michael, you had mentioned that an issue that I'm a little worried about is getting a quorum. And so we should keep that on our radar, I think, about our options there with reducing the quorum requirement. If you guys on the Board of Selectmen think that's a good idea,
Right.
it might be something we want to have in our hip pocket.
right, we certainly have the ability to do that. My concern is how would it be viewed
I know.
suspiciously? I mean,
Yeah, I totally get it.
that's the issue.
Yep, 100%. Yeah.
We also
Will it
hope
hurt us more than help us?
I know. Yep.
we also hope to share your booth at Dover's Day and be able to hand out some stuff.
We may need contributions for our prizes.
Yeah,
And
I was going to
games.
say,
Are we
it's
doing
going to cost
rubber
a couple
duckies?
hundred rubber
You are
duckies.
more than happy. We're more than happy to share our booth, but last year we surprisingly we were a hit, but we ran out of these little ducks that we had.
That's right.
I think I should just bring Ollie.
Well, there you go. We'll have to see. We'll have to check out with other towns and see what kind of swag they use for their promotions, right?
Well, keep going, guys. It is a massive undertaking. Obviously, we've got to address it, and you've done, as far as we can tell, everything in the right way, the right order, with a good timeline. You prepped the town, and now it's up to everyone to use the facts and come to a rational decision.
Well, and the most important thing is getting people to town meeting and getting people to continue to focus on this.
It's getting people's attention
Right.
and getting them out there. It's one of the reasons we really want to get all the boards and committees together. I mean, if you think about the number of town citizens that make up all the boards and committees, you're probably talking 100 or so. If we
Right.
were to get all of them out, that's a start. Of course, we want to get others out as well, but it's really key to get a quorum, and that would help. So
Yeah.
see what we can do in August and or in early September to get them motivated to do that.
It makes sense, and anything we can do to help or try and support you, just let us know.
Yeah,
Thank you.
definitely.
Great, thanks.
Right. Well, thank you both.
Thank you
Okay.
all.
All
Have a
right.
good evening.
Sorry about my camera.
Have a great
See
night.
you soon.
Bye. All right, so the next item on our agenda is a discussion regarding boards, committees, and appointments. And the other thing I was wondering is we can certainly assign these now. Do you think it makes sense to do this at our planning meeting as we think about the goals and objectives, or?
We certainly could, yeah. Particularly if the board wanted a little more time to think about it. Yeah, totally up to you.
That would be helpful for me because my head is not in the right place at the moment. I'm sorry.
Okay, so Dave, is that okay with you? Why don't we?
Absolutely. What I'm thinking is maybe we could put the committees that we would enjoy serving on one list, and then those that might, for whatever reason, like I'm going to have a lot of conflicts with the planning board because I'm going to become chair of a place to turn, and they have their meetings on Monday nights.
Okay,
So I can't blow them off anymore, and so someone should take on the planning board. It's just way too important, and I'm
Okay.
just not going to be able to make most of
all
their
right.
meetings.
So I think this is a great idea. Why don't we all put together our own lists and
Yeah,
then
our preference list, right?
right,
And then
our
we can talk
preference
about it.
list, right? What works, what doesn't work. Also keeping in mind that some of these committees are a much bigger lift than others,
Right.
like warrants, capital budgets, planning board. So we should make sure if as best as we can
Spread the load. Yeah.
spread those out. And then
Yeah.
some of them are more just short-term things, like the fire chief committee.
Yep.
But I think it's a good idea. Let's do priorities. What we'd like to do.
Yeah, it's a like to do list, and then
Right.
we'll do the horse trading when we do our planning session. I think that's a
Right.
great idea.
Okay, all right. I like that too. Believe it or not, there are a couple of committees I wouldn't mind serving on, but yeah, and it's a good idea putting the day, like for instance, the open space meets the first Tuesday of the month, and I was the liaison and I made it to one meeting because there were all kinds of I just had conflict after conflict after conflict. So that committee has been shortchanged by the Board of Selectmen for the last 6 months.
Understood. I had a lot the same way. I couldn't even
Right.
get to sustainability for like the first 3 or 4 meetings.
Right.
And when you have 3 or 4 all scheduled at the same time,
I know, you can't, and that's what it kept happening. Capital budgets was scheduled at the same time.
yeah. So,
Right.
well, yeah. So we'll to talk about all that when we do our horse trading, because that's very important to make sure that you don't take 3 assignments that all meet on the same night.
Right. Right. Right.
So, Mike, I don't know if that's something that you or Mona or Chris could quickly. When are the typical meetings for these committees?
Yep, we can add that to the list and redistribute it for your first planning meeting.
That sounds great.
Perfect. Thank you.
Sounds really good. All right, so the next item on the agenda, we got a new item packet earlier this afternoon, and poor Mona is having the office is having a really hard time helping us schedule some of these summer meetings. So I asked Mona today just to maybe make a list of those. There are 2 where there are large conflicts, and maybe we could try and get a resolution here. So the week of June 9th is just a particularly challenging week for me because I'm in Europe and I just have meetings there all day and in the evening. So I don't have options for a meeting. So I suggested to Mona that perhaps we do Monday, June 16th. That is before Cam goes to San Francisco. And it's only a few days after the Thursday meeting, which we were supposed to have on June 9th.
I could certainly call into a meeting from San Francisco as well if it's
Okay.
difficult to get an appropriate time.
So Dave, could you do Monday, June 16th?
I can, but if we do it at 6:30, there's a planning board at 7. This will illustrate why I can't make it. But can we go earlier in the day on the 16th?
I
Sure.
could.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
could too.
So pick a time convenient for the two of you, because I'm I mean, I
Robin,
can't
it's your
do the
choice.
morning, but the afternoon.
Later
your
in the
choice, Robin.
afternoon is better for me, so could we do something like 3:30 or 4:30?
Perfect.
Okay.
Works for me.
All
Perfect.
right, so why don't we'll split the difference and say 4. Does that work, Mona? Did you get that?
Yep, I'm taking notes too, so we got it.
Okay, good.
I've got it. Thank you.
So then Wednesday, June 25th, the warrant committee is meeting. Shame on them. So again, would Monday, June 30th be a possibility? And that would be very difficult for me because we're doing a road trip cross country.
Oh, cool.
So, well, just to Wisconsin.
What about going to like the 24th, that Tuesday?
I could do that. That would be perfect.
Cam, can you do the 24th?
Let me just check.
And then, again, if not, we could also do the 25th earlier again.
I
I can do the 24th.
Yeah, I'm not sure
Okay.
when we're dry, when
Okay.
we're dry or when we're not.
All right, so
I
if
am.
we do the 24th at 6:30 normal time,
That would be
Yep.
fine.
Works
All right.
fine to me.
that's 2.
Then we have Thursday, July 10th, Thursday, July 24th, Thursday, August 7th. And August again is problematic because it seems as though we're all going on vacation the same time. So the question is, does either August 18th or 19th work for anyone?
19th is much better because the planning board is on the 18th.
Okay, so the 19th works for me.
That's the 19th of
August.
August.
Ah, okay. Yeah, sorry, I was a
Okay.
little bit messed up there. I didn't have the calendar in front of me.
Okay, so that's 3 down.
Yeah, that works for me.
Okay. And then Thursday, is this the option, Mona? Thursday, September 25th?
So that one seemed to work for everybody.
Okay.
But the conversation I think we needed to have here live was we have a problem due to everyone's travel between the August 19th meeting, which you just scheduled, and then September 25th. That's a pretty big gap to not meet. If it was in the middle of summer, that might be okay, but given it's September and we there might be some business. So we just weren't sure, trying to talk through if there was any availability to meet in between there. Even if we had to only have 2 people just to get any urgent business done, otherwise we could try to keep the agenda light. So it was just a conversation of sometime that beginning of September, if we might be able to squeeze
Right.
something in.
So for me, the 10th, the 11th, and the 12th are problematic. I could probably do the 10th. We have the planning board meeting on the 8th, right?
Yep. Well, I'm also going to be away most of that week. So, I mean, again, I can dial in on a specific night. I will just incur the wrath of the family, but that's okay.
Would the 9th work? September 9th?
Yes. And then, Mona, we should keep in mind the
Mm.
Jewish holidays. So we have Rosh Hashanah on the 23rd of September
Mhm. Okay,
and Yom Kippur on the 4th of the 2nd of October. So it's the nights before. So the September 22nd, people will be celebrating.
okay.
Yeah, so why don't we do the 9th? That's
So I think Cam will be away, but if he has no objection, again, we could try to keep the agenda as light as possible, but just any urgent
Okay.
business.
Well, then I will call in on the 9th. That's,
yeah, so let's try
Oh,
keep
you're
it a
away.
really light meeting.
yeah, if you just do it as Mike says, I mean, we're all gonna know what has to be dealt with and we'll
Right.
deal with it then.
Right. And then Mike, as always, if there's urgent things, we
Mhm.
can just do a one-off ad hoc meeting.
Yeah.
No, I appreciate it. You've always been very, very good about that. We just figured, given everyone's travel schedule, at least if we had something penciled in as a,
Right.
placeholder, that would be helpful, but I appreciate that if needed.
Okay. And then I guess the other thing we should do is do those planning meetings. So we usually do those in person during the day. So Mike, why don't you and I just brainstorm about timing and then float some options out there?
Okay. That's
Given
great.
we know everybody's travel schedules now. All right. Boy, that was hard.
So we'll send out, maybe I'll work with Mona to send out calendar invite placeholders. So everybody has it in their calendar.
That sounds
Put it somewhere.
really, really, really good.
Robin, did you tell Cam he's got to bring the donuts now because he's new?
I did not.
Okay.
I
I
didn't hear
love
that.
Donuts.
I
I
don't
didn't
mind
hear
bringing
that.
the donuts because then I get what I like. All right.
So how frequently do I have to get the donuts? Is this just for one meeting or for all
It
meetings?
depends how many meetings we have. Actually, one of the meetings I even brought lunch. I said to everybody, I'm going to Blue Moon. Give me your.
Right.
Okay, well, so we're good on dates?
We're good now, and we'll
Yep.
just
So we're good on
schedule.
the regular schedule, and then Rob and I will get back to everybody about some morning or midday planning.
I mean, last year we were able to get it done in one meeting.
One or two.
Right, right. So, I mean, the first year we did this, I think we had 5 or 6, but we've gotten good at it. And many of the things just are long term, so they roll over. And Mike
Right.
and Chris did a really nice job of, pulling it together and making sure we knew what projects were rolling over and then what some of the new initiatives were. So that was
Right.
super helpful.
And
So
I think what we did last year also is we had the board, each member emailed us their topics they were thinking of. So we, at least at that first meeting, we already had a working document, as opposed to starting from scratch. So
that
we'll
I
try to do
forgot
that.
that's a great idea, right?
Yeah, that was very helpful.
Right. All right. So item 1.6, there was a little bit of back and forth with Robin, and we're gonna move this to our next meeting, and that's just a summary of the town administrator's annual performance. And just for the record, it's not because there are any issues with the performance. It's timing of one board of selectmen's getting the information to Robin. So I am to blame. I did not get it to her till later than I expected. Just took me longer. So she's gonna pull everything together, and then and I also felt as though a lot happens. Mike's dealt with a lot, done a lot, and I want to give it the time that it actually needs.
Well said. It's,
Yep.
it was not an easy year to review because of the enormity of all the information. So,
Yes, indeed.
Right, so. Then 1.7, this is you, Mike. I'm tired of talking. This is just an update on the goals and
So I,
priorities.
given we met just last week, I really don't have
Okay.
any significant updates to share in the last few days. So,
All right.
I'll
So
just
then
leave it.
that's fine. So then their Board of Selectmen updates. I don't have a lot of updates. I am gonna be going to graduation on next Thursday night, right, Mona? Weather permitting.
Correct.
And we do have the Dover's Memorial Day celebration on Friday. The weather's not looking great, but
Not really.
hopefully we can get that in. And Cam, if you still feel under the weather, don't force yourself to come. We know you'll be there with us in spirit. But
I'm
again,
hoping that I'll be through this within another day. So
okay.
yeah, but don't, if it's pouring rain and cold and awful,
yeah,
do not,
Right.
yeah,
don't push
right.
it.
Agreed.
You always have next year.
Exactly.
That's the great thing about Memorial Day. It happens every year. And we have a parade. So that's all I have for updates.
Yeah, because last week I went through, I mean, it was 1, 2,
Right.
3, 4, 5,
Right.
6 updates. So
Right.
not much happened during a holiday weekend in between.
Which was nice. All
Right,
right.
and I haven't got any updates either, I've got to say.
Excellent. And then our next meeting, so we have a couple of meetings. I'm really looking forward to it. The meeting on Monday, just to go over the borrowing, and we have our bond advisors there. And it was interesting, Dave, the questions you sent were almost identical to what Mike and I talked about. So I think we all want to discuss the same thing. So I think it will be a really productive meeting.
Correct. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that as well. It's just what are the facts?
Right.
Doing this in a vacuum is incredibly difficult.
Right.
Right. I apologize for not getting any questions in, Mike, but I just haven't felt up to it the last 2 days. So
No worries, Kim.
Yeah.
create a problem.
Hopefully between Robin and myself, we got the big ones. And if not, just ask it on Monday. It's not a
Right.
big deal.
Right. Right.
And what I'm expecting to happen is as they give us more information, I think we're going to have more questions. Don't you agree, Chris?
No doubt. No doubt. Yeah.
No,
So I'm
absolutely. I think
hoping, I really hope that it's a conversation, and through their answers, we may have additional questions. I mean, we're just trying to get the facts together so we understand what the right thing to do. And then I'm really excited to get the Collins Center project also started. And then I will feel that we will be highly educated
yes.
in the facts, and that's really what we want.
Yes.
That's right. And just to put a point on that, Robin, this is not like a public hearing where you had to get your questions in and that's
Right.
it, right? This was just hopefully, so there'd be some prep so that we could be proactive in answering the questions we all have. But absolutely, things are going to come up that day.
Right, and making sure that Hilltop also is prepared, they understand what our questions are, so they can focus their presentations and answers on those, which I think is important for them as well. And I think it's important that this is education for the three of us. That's how we're viewing this.
Right.
Yeah, I actually did speak with Hilltop today, and they're fully prepared for,
Right.
a good conversation, and really to just get a lot of the information out there from their perspective, and hopefully we can put everything together and make the best decision. So we're looking forward to it too.
Exactly, and that's the goal of that meeting. So I'm really looking forward to it. And it was great that we were able to pull it together so quickly. So that was good.
Yes, thank you, whoever did that, because we need this information before we can make any kind of intelligent decision.
Right, right. So then, Mike, item 1.9 is you.
Yep. So the only updates I had were one, you stole Memorial Day tomorrow, 6 p.m. One thing you didn't mention, but just for the board's benefit, the Housing Task Force met Wednesday,
Oh, I
and
forgot.
our housing study plan RFP has gone live. The board may recall we actually did this last fall, but unfortunately we didn't get any bids that we felt were responsive. So we've gone back out now this spring, summer, and hoping for a better response. And then lastly, the board may see on social media, Chris has been working with our police and animal control officers to do some leash law reminders as is the nice weather and more dogs are out. So we'll continue to push that. But as a reminder, we do have a bylaw that does require dogs to be on a leash when in public areas. So we'll continue to push that message as we do get complaints that do funnel into us.
That was great. I saw it on many different outlets, and I was able to send it to citizens who recently expressed concern to me about the leash law and other citizens not being aware of it. So I was able to say, we're trying to reach out. This is some of the things we're doing. And for once I got positive responses. I got 2 thank yous, and this is a great start. And the other thing is we also have Park and Rec now has signs up in Carroll Park, just reminding walkers of trail etiquette. Again, it's a privilege for all of us to be able to use these trails. And we should all be polite to one another.
That's right.
So I have to go into Carroll Park and look at the signs. And then the last item on the agenda is our consent agenda, and that is approval of 2025 special 1-day liquor licenses for 2 on June 5th, 1 on June 6th, 1 on the 12th, 13th, 15th, 16th, 17th, 21st, and 28th, and all have been approved by Chief Vinci. So I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second, but I note that last meeting, which was what, a week ago, we had even more than this. So this is a very
know.
fun time of year. So
Right. So you're gonna second?
I did second. I'm sorry.
Okay. Oh, all in favor? I, Robin Hunter.
Hi, Dave Haviland.
I, Cam Hudson.
And Cam, I don't know if we mentioned this to you, but you actually have to go into the office and sign these.
I've done my share already.
Okay.
From last week.
Excellent. I'm never sure if we've tell you this stuff on.
Yeah, Mona keeps me honest, so that's the great.
Yeah, thank you, Mona. She keeps us. Well, I hate to admit this, she frequently has to nudge me to come in. But Mona, I was the first one there.
Yes, you were. And I let Dave Haviland know that because he was the last this week.
Thank you, Mona. Thank you.
All right. So gauntlet is down. Challenge accepted.
Morning.
All right. I see that's when you guys are closed on Friday, it's going to be really hard. All right, so I'm going to make a motion to adjourn this meeting.
Second.
All in favor? I, Robin Hunter.
Hi, Dave Haviland.
I, Cam Hudson.
Cam, hope you feel better.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm going back to bed now. Right now.
Oh,
Good.
Have a good night.
Good night, everyone.
Thanks,
Thanks, everyone.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Bye.